Trump has signed an executive order giving the Department of Defense a secondary name, the Department of War. Pete Hegseth, the Department of War Secretary, so the Secretary of War now, I guess, for the anti-war president, is like all for war at this point with Venezuela. Venezuela is a South American country, but what's interesting is that a lot of the propaganda against Venezuela particularly has been sort of fabricated from the ground up based off of like racism. And if you don't believe me, just give me a second. I can explain, I can show you my sources and why I believe that. But first, I do kind of want to talk about why them changing the Department of Defense's name is kind of a good thing. There was a whole pretense that Trump was anti-war, the anti-war president. He's not an isolationist, but he is anti-war. You know, that's the shit that they repeated during his whole run and even afterwards. And now that pretense is completely gone, and they've renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Now, people who are familiar with like militaries understand that like a lot of them across the world use defense as a euphemism for war, and it's sort of a way to recognize in a way that military isn't just for war. So I understand it has a utility to it, but when doing it the opposite way, the utility is to threaten other countries, right? Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, the guy interested in war fighting and war making, wants to go to war. Not much of a surprise, but at least now there's no like, oh, Trump's the anti-war president. He ended all the wars, you know. He ended. If you end 4 wars and start 1, that just seems like you're kind of a fucking bully, right? Like you're all over the place. So here is an article on Ken Klippenstein's Substack, where he leaks a memo, a response email from the, I think, Department of Homeland Security. This letter is in response to Lauren Boebert sending in questions. There's no questions in the article here, but there is the response. So we can sort of glean stuff from this. But I did want to read a couple points and then move on specifically to this Venezuelan gang claim. Regarding your questions on TDA, in September 2023, emerging information surrounding TDA triggered a renewed focus within ICE's lead for countering transnational organized crime. Since then, and to the fullest extent possible, ICE has been working with federal, state, and local law enforcement partners around the country, as well as the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Colorado and the Colorado Judicial District Attorney offices to identify, investigate, indict, arrest, disrupt, and dismantle TDA factions operating in Colorado. More specifically, in September 2023, HSI Denver, Colorado initiated an investigation into the violent Venezuelan TCO known as TDA. So this is after Biden declared them as a transnational criminal organization. HSI Denver had developed information from confidential sources and law enforcement partners indicating that members of TDA were establishing command and control centers in residential complexes in communities largely populated by Venezuelan nationals and other immigrant populations, and perpetuating acts of violence as a means to threaten, intimidate, and maintain control. So let's rewind a little bit. Let's look at this again. Denver had developed information from confidential sources and law enforcement partners indicating that members of TDA were establishing command and control centers in residential complexes in communities largely populated by Venezuelan nationals. Now, this claim by Homeland Security and ICE is completely unsubstantiated. And if we go to this story from September 5th, 2024, talking about the story that HSI is referring to regarding Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment buildings, it's basically a fucking hoax. So, unpacking hysteria over Venezuelan gang members allegedly taking over Colorado apartment. Rumors that members of a gang of Venezuelan commanded control of an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado generated headlines by conservative media outlets and social media commentary in late summer 2024. So if we're thinking September, they're designated as a TCO. In that next summer, this is when the apartment, Tren de Aragua taking over apartment buildings thing came up. Rumors began when on August 28th, a local TV broadcast reporter based in Denver, Colorado posted a video to X supposedly showing a group of men, 4 of whom appeared to be carrying firearms, entering an apartment in a nearby suburb, Aurora. The reporter's outlet, Fox 31 KDVR, which is an affiliate of the Fox network, posted an article featuring the video, describing it as showing alleged gang violence at an apartment complex home to some migrants in Aurora. According to the article, the video was taken by a security camera owned by one of the complex's residents not long before the shootout broke out on the property. Within the next week, however, rumors about the video showed, or what supposedly happened at the complex, spread online. The New York Post claimed a criminal gang from Venezuela called Tren de Aragua had taken over the complex. In reality, it's unknown what the video actually shows or if it's related to gang activity. Aurora police believe members of Tren de Aragua are operating in their jurisdiction, which we know that's confirmed. But the thing about gangs is gangs in America aren't really equipped to take over privately owned apartment buildings. That's just not really something that happens. There will be people who are in gangs who live at the apartment, and they might meet up at this person's house sometimes, but the idea of them coordinating to take over an apartment complex without that erupting into arrests, it's just completely it's fantasy. It is conservative crime brain rot fantasy. According to CNN, Tren de Aragua, which officially adopted its name in the earlier mid-2010s, is known for violence and drug trafficking as well as sex trafficking rings across South America. In 2023, some U.S. politicians expressed concerns over the gang's influence in the United States. The U.S. President Joe Biden's administration officially declared the gang a transnational criminal organization in July 2024. So actually, when HSI calls them a TCO in 2023, this is wrong, because they weren't a transnational criminal organization, or at least they weren't declared as one before then. And so this is I really want to nail home how much ICE and Homeland Security is just actively lying right now. They're lying about fucking everything. They lied about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and now they're lying about concurrently, they're lying about crowds of Venezuelans, saying they have ties to this transnational gang, when the ties that they mean are I have a cousin who's in this gang, so now I'm tied to the gang. Since I'm tied to the gang, now my other cousin's tied to the gang. You know how that works? And that's how they always do it. So for an example, the FBI has Juggalos, the fans of ICP, registered as a gang, a hybrid street gang, and if I were to be arrested, I have a gang tattoo. You see that? This, according to the FBI, is a gang tattoo. Now, the only reason I have that is because I like some of ICP still, but I liked ICP a lot when I was a kid, and so I had friends who were Juggalos who were other ICP fans, and I have the tattoo to prove it. Now, the FBI recognizes that as gang affiliation. So you can't trust their word directly when it comes to gang affiliation. If you're in a gang, if you're proven to be in a gang with proof, that's different than just saying someone is linked or someone has ties to a gang. It's the vaguest type of information. It's the vaguest type of connection you can make. You just literally have to say it. August 28th, 2024 post from the Aurora Police Department said, "We are aware that components of TDA are operating in Aurora. APD has been increasingly collecting evidence to show the gang is connected to the crimes in the area. However, as we have said previously, and as the DEA similarly stated, it would be improper at this time for the city and APD to make any conclusory statements about the specific incidents or provide details about the law enforcement strategies and operations. That statement by Aurora Police did not refer to the rumors about the in-question apartment complex specifically. So then arrests by 2 people with gang ties at the apartment building. So this is interesting, and then we're going to go back to the big article. So on an August 30th, 2024 statement on Facebook, Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman said the city's attorney's office would be requesting a court order to clear the Edge at Lowry buildings, which is an apartment building, in response to Venezuelan gang activity, with a goal to get these properties back under control of the property owners. Snopes could not find any further information about the alleged court order beyond his Facebook post. So the mayor of Aurora is lying and saying that he's going to have these Venezuelans evicted with a court order to clear out the whole apartments. But this is what the residents of the apartment are saying. Tenants at the Edge of Lowry held a news conference alleging that something else, not gang activity, was affecting them. According to local ABC and NBC affiliates and the Denver Post, the complex's residents, who are mostly migrants, denied the rumors about the gang takeover. Instead, they said they felt unsafe because the complex's management company was allegedly neglecting building upkeep. Denver's ABC affiliate covered what it described as unlivable conditions at the building in August, a week before the supposed gang takeover came to light. The property management company has faced similar accusations before. Fitzsimmons Place, the aforementioned building on Nome Street, is owned by the same company, and because of its condition, Aurora officials obtained a court order to condemn the building in early August 2024. In a statement to the Denver Post, the property management company said it could not maintain the buildings because of tren de aragua activity. The city of Aurora disagreed. The city has documented substantial, long-standing unresolved code violations and other poor conditions at Fitzsimmons Place apartments for the last few years, City of Aurora spokesperson Ryan Luby told Denver's ABC affiliate in early August 2024. Possible gang activity is immaterial to and separate from the city's code enforcement actions to the property and the building's inhabitability. So the people who live at these apartment buildings are saying that they are living in shit conditions, and since they're complaining about it, the owners of the property are creating this story of the gang that's popular in the mainstream media as being a nefarious gang, of them taking over the apartment building so they can have it cleared out so the tenants would stop complaining. Probably so they could have a whole new group of other extremely poor tenants move in and restart the whole cycle. It's just complete fucking capitalistic corruption, and it's feeding into a possible war with Venezuela. Here's another part. Just one example, an HSI Denver federal investigation related to an August 2024 jewelry store robbery in Denver identified 7 suspected TDA members and non-citizens from Venezuela. Of the 7, 6 have been indicted for their role in the robbery, and the 7th is in ERO custody pending administrative immigrant action.
A suspect indicted in a violent robbery at a family-owned jewelry store has pleaded guilty.
Armed thieves crashed the shop in Northwest Denver and made off with millions of dollars in jewelry. 9 News investigative reporter Jeremy Hahola has been following the criminal cases over the last year.
Yeah, that's right. You'll remember this story in this video. It showed these guys storming this family-owned business in Northwest Denver. New court records show that the people inside, the suspects, made off with more than $4 million worth of items on that day. This happened in June of last year at Joyeria El Ruby, a jewelry shop at 38th Avenue in Sheridan. Court records say multiple people stormed the shop through the front door and back door and began taking jewelry. They also held employees against their will and hit them with a gun. The thieves made off with $4.2 million worth of items, according to a plea agreement that was recently filed here in federal court. That plea agreement says Newman Castillo Delgado pleaded guilty to a violent robbery charge and brandishing a firearm. He's the first of 6 indicted people here to make a deal with prosecutors. It's expected he'll be sentenced in December and could face more than 20 years in prison. Now, this criminal case has been moving along for more than a year now, and now that one suspect here has pleaded guilty, the others may follow. And you'll remember Investigators tracked some of these suspects to a hotel room in El Paso, Texas, a few days after this robbery. It is unknown exactly what happened to all of that jewelry, but 6 people indicted. First one has fallen to a plea deal with prosecutors. We'll see what happens to the next 5 suspects.
They haven't been able to track down not a piece of jewelry.
They found some in that hotel room. They haven't said how much, but who knows where all that jewelry went. Maybe we'll find out during sentencing or as this case continues to progress.
And unless this is a separate robbery that happened at around the same time, this has to be the robbery because they got the month wrong and there was no August 2024 robbery. So this robbery happened in July. July or June, doesn't matter. The HSI is wrong when they say that it happened in August. So they're just throwing a whole bunch of fucking lies into this thing to try to fucking make it seem like a coordinated, attached issue. They're robbing jewelry stores. They're taking over apartment buildings. You don't know where they are. They could be taking over your own block, you know? And this is just based out of bigotry because there's nothing to like prove. There are assertions by people who are saying that every Venezuelan is in Tren de Aragua, but there's nothing to prove that these people who robbed this fucking jewelry store are connected to the people who were in the apartment building. There's just no connection there. What do you say? We're going to war over a bunch of fucking hoaxes. We're going to war over hoaxes and violent pieces of shit in charge of our government.